Hey guys, it's Miss Hofeld. Before I get started on Read Aloud today, I wanted to tell you guys about something I'm doing after I read to you all today. Mr. V, if you go to Edison School, you know Mr. V from PE, has started a YouTube channel also where he's making some workout videos and doing some training and exercise, and it's really easy and fun to do, and he is setting those up. So after I record this video, I am planning on going onto Mr. V's YouTube channel and watching one of his videos and getting in a quick workout, which is why I'm in my workout gear and my hair is a little bit messy and pulled back, but I'm really excited to get to do a workout in about 20 or 30 minutes here. I wanted to tell you guys about it because it would be an awesome page for you to visit after a read aloud so that you can get some movement in too and maybe get one of your family members to join you and just do some awesome moving and working out to keep your body safe and healthy. So you'll see down below in the description and in the comments, I'll make sure I link his YouTube channel so that you guys can jump on there, see Mr. V, check out some of his workouts, and maybe get in a quick family workout tonight or tomorrow. So make sure that you listen to our read aloud today and check that out when you get a chance, and hopefully you all will enjoy a nice break for some movement too after listening to our story today. All right, I'll be right back with our book. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to start reading our next section today. We'll read 2 chapters. This section is called Tuesday. I'll show you the page. And it says,
Gauche.
Adjective, unsophisticated and socially awkward. Before I move on, my question is a prediction question today. Who do you think that word describes in our story, or why do you think they led off with a word that means unsophisticated and socially awkward? Maybe we'll learn a little bit more in these next 2 chapters. Let's find out. Life According to Ben, Part 4. There were 2 offices at Lannister Middle School. Ben wasn't sure which one did what, so he walked through the door closest to the school entrance. The morning bell would ring in 5 minutes. He didn't have time to waste. The office was small and mostly empty, except for a petite blonde woman pecking away at the keyboard on the other side of the desk. A bell sat next to a lined, signed-in, sign-out sheet. Ben rang it, even though the woman was only a few feet away. "The tardy bell hasn't rung yet," she said. "You have plenty of time." Her nameplate said Mrs. D. Carlyle. He wondered what her first name was. She looked like a Diane. Maybe a Denise. An oversized plastic water bottle sat perched next to her keyboard. Did you know that the average American uses more than 160 disposable water bottles per year, but only recycles 38 of them? Said Ben. She stopped pecking the keyboard and looked at him. "Are you signing in?" Ben glanced down at the sign-in sheet. "Signing in? No, I wanted to register for the student council race." "The deadline was yesterday," said Diane, maybe Denise. Ben tapped his chin thoughtfully. "I wonder if the school would make an exception?" "I wouldn't know. I don't handle the applications. All that's done in the main office." She motioned toward the second office nearby. Ben craned his neck to look through the glass partition that separated them. The other office bustled with activity. "Which office is this?" he asked. "Attendance." Ben looked around. "So what happens here doesn't happen there?" "Non-stop action and excitement, a regular carnival." "Doesn't look too exciting." "I know, I was being sarcastic." She leaned back in her chair. "The attendance office is where you go when you're late for class." "I'm never late for class." "You also come here if you have to leave school early." "I never leave school early." "Or if you were absent the day before." Before Ben could say anything, she lifted her hand. "Let me guess. You've never been absent." "That's right. I've never missed a single day of school in my life." "If you keep that up, you'll get the perfect attendance award at the end of the year." "Really?" "Sure as I'm sitting here." She glanced up at the clock. "The bell is going to ring soon. You better get to class." Ben turned on his heel and headed toward the door. "Make sure you pick up those registration papers next door," Mrs. Carlyle said. Ben's hand was on the doorknob. "I thought you said it was too late." "Tell them I said it's okay," she said. "I have a feeling you'd make a good representative." Thank you, Mrs. Carlyle. Ben hadn't expected to be so excited. He'd only just decided to run yesterday, after all. And it was completely on a whim, but it felt like something meaningful. Personal evolution. By the way, what's your first name? Is it Diane or Denise? Danielle. My name is Ben Boxer, said Ben. I just started 6th grade. Well, Ben Boxer, she said, welcome to middle school. Our next chapter is called The Anti-Click. Rabbit hole. A winning word at the first National Spelling Bee in 1925 was gladiolus. The winning word in 2016 was Gesellschaft. Sorry, guys. Which refers to social relations based on impersonal ties, such as duty to a society or organization. A gladiolus is a flower that dies in the autumn and winter, only to bloom again. The benches in front of the auditorium were prime real estate at West Middle School. Charlotte and Bridget had lucked out. They had lockers within sight of the benches and a well-tuned system that got there before anyone else. That's where they were sitting when Bridget pulled her hair into a ponytail and said that she hated art class. Charlotte thought she must have heard wrong. The hallways were loud and full of shrieks, squeaking sneakers, and slamming lockers because art was the only class where Bridget finished her assignments. She was a great artist, like a professional. Before they started middle school, she had talked about art classes non-stop. How could they be taken as an elective? And she could take art all 3 years if she wanted. It's because of Tori Baraldi, said Bridget. She sighed and rolled her eyes. She keeps coming over and telling me my lines aren't straight, or my design isn't big enough, or the circumference of whatever isn't in perspective. I thought art was supposed to be subjective. And what annoys me most, continued Bridget, is that Mrs. Lapira doesn't do anything. She's like this awesome artist, but she never says, Tori, go back to your seat. You're irritating, conceited gnat. Why is Tori in art class anyway, Charlotte said. She doesn't seem like the type. She calls it her meditation hour. Relaxation time so her brain can rest in preparation for the bee. Bridget grinned knowingly, and they both burst out laughing. Here's the thing about Victoria Tori Baraldi. Last year in 6th grade, she made it to the National Spelling Bee. It was a big deal at West Middle School, and for an entire week, the students had to listen to Tori spell words over the PA system during morning announcements. There were posters everywhere. How do you spell W-I-N? B-A-R-A-L-D-I. And be your best. Did you know Victoria Baraldi scrambles to diabolic? Said Charlotte. Yes, you've told me that like a million times. They leaned back on the benches and people watched. When they were little, they would sit knee to knee in the shade of the neighborhood playground and make up stories about all the parents there, like that father is a spy and that mother is the witness in the witness protection program. Mr. Patel was secretly a millionaire with diamonds in his basement. Ms. Gianforcaro's real name was Mrs. Wright, but she had to flee the country after a bank heist gone wrong, and old Mr. Maruck wasn't old at all. He'd taken a special potion that made him age backward. When had they stopped playing that game? It must have been one of those things that disappeared, like Charlotte's thick-haired dolls. Back then in elementary school, they were even sort of friends with kids like Tori and Magda, the eggheads, as Bridget called them now. Charlotte distinctly remembered holding hands with Bridget and chanting, Red Rover, let Magda come over. Charlotte closed her eyes and imagined the smells of the West Elementary School playground. Then she nudged Bridget and tilted her head toward Magda, who was unloading books from her locker to her backpack. Hey, Charlotte whispered. Do you think Magda is in the CIA? What are you talking about? Had Bridget forgotten? Nothing, Charlotte said. Bridget eyed Magda and said, You know how we were joking about you inviting Mateo over for Scrabble? Charlotte pictured Mateo at her dining room table, hair falling in his eyes as he pinched a Scrabble tile between his fingers. Well, Bridget continued, that got me thinking. Maybe you could invite Magda over instead. Charlotte's eyebrows bunched together. That Mateo thing was a joke, and anyway, that's not exactly an even trade-off, she said. Bridget laughed nervously. No, I bet she's really good. You could play after school. She'd be a much better opponent than me, and it would give you something to do until you're able to visit your dad. Oh, Charlotte said. I thought you could just come to my house or something like usual. Yeah, but she lives right next door to you, Bridget shrugged. I just thought since she's part of the egghead clique. Well, I'm part of the anti-clique. That's what Charlotte and Bridget had called themselves last year, because there were only two of them, and they didn't have a theme like the eggheads or the band kids or whatever. They were just two friends who hung out all the time, even though they didn't have much in common. After a long pause, Bridget said, The thing is, I don't think I'm going straight home after school today. She tugged at her ponytail and wrapped a lock of hair around her finger. Sophie Seong asked me to meet her at Red's. Sophie Seong? Yeah, we're in art together this year. Bridget stood up. You can come too if you want. I'm sure Sophie wouldn't mind. I just figured you wouldn't want to, especially after what happened last time. Charlotte thought about this science fiction book she's read once, where a robot repeated, does not compute, until it self-destructed. Maybe, she said, but she was really thinking, me? At Red's? Does not compute. Red's wasn't really Red's, it was JJ's Pizza, and it was just a few blocks away. Red's was named for the red awning in front. It was an after-school hangout for people like Sophie Seong and her friends. From 3 to 4 p.m., the place was packed with cool kids. There was always a way to tell the Reds crowd from the rest of the kids at West Middle School, and this year, it was their shoes. It was the in thing to wear Vans sneakers with long laces. Charlotte had only been to Red's once, not counting the time she went with her dad on the weekend, when it was just a pizza joint and not a hangout. It had been the end of last year. She had gone because Bridget wanted to see what all the fuss was about. But first, Bridget wanted to put her hair in a messy bun because that's what Sophie Seongs were doing. So they'd stopped at Charlotte's house to get a rubber band and bobby pins. Her dad was in the kitchen sorting through his prescriptions. Hey there, he said. He was putting pills in little containers marked for the days of the week. Clink, clink, clink. What are you two troublemakers up to? He smiled at Bridget. Paint any masterpieces lately? Bridget gave her usual reply. Still working on it, Mr. Lockard. Practice makes perfect. That's what he'd always said. Right now, I'm trying to sketch things from life, like that. She motioned toward Mrs. Lockard's pear painting in the adjoining dining room. But it never turns out right. Like the bowl of fruit doesn't look like a bowl of fruit. What does it look like? Bridget thought about it. Worms. Mr. Lockard laughed. Maybe it can be the next Van Gogh. If he painted a bowl of fruit, it wouldn't look exactly like the actual bowl. It looked like someone's dream of one. It's remarkable, actually. And there's a Van Gogh at the art museum. Clink, clink, clink. Charlotte tugged Bridget's shirt toward the stairs. Let's do your hair so we can go. Where are you off to? Mr. Lockard asked. All the pills were tucked away in their compartments, so he shut the lids. Snap, snap, snap. Red's, said Charlotte. Red's? Now there's a blast from the past. He rubbed his belly. Pizza sounds delicious. Maybe I'll join you. My treat, of course. The girls said nothing, then hurried up the stairs with matching panic in their eyes. Once Charlotte closed the door, Bridget said what both of them were thinking. I like your dad and everything, but he can't come. He just can't. It would be mortifying. Mortifying. She paced the room, opening and closing her palm, as if to say, Gimme, gimme. Where's Sphinx? We need Sphinx. Sphinx was a piece of quartz from Egypt. One of Mr. Lockard's colleagues at Swarthmore College had given it to Charlotte as a gift because she wanted to be a geologist one day. She had a collection of more than 100 rock specimens in trays on her dresser, each with an identifying label: hematite, pegmatite, pyrolusite, feldspar, but the quartz was her favorite. At some point, she and Bridget had decided that it brought them good luck, and they named it Sphinx. Sphinx was always in the same place in the tray, marked Egyptian quartz. Charlotte snatched Sphinx and shoved it into Bridget's hand. Bridget stopped pacing and cradled the quartz to her chest. Please, Sphinx, make Charlotte's dad change his mind. She pushed the quartz toward Charlotte. Now you. Charlotte took it, but didn't make a wish. Instead, she said, I'll just tell him not to come. She put Sphinx back in its place. Bridget exhaled and collapsed on the bed with her back facing Charlotte, her way of saying, let's get started on the bun. Okay, Bridget said. What will you say? I'll just tell him the truth. I'm sure he'll understand. Bridget paused. Maybe, but your parents are different. They're so old-fashioned. In elementary school, Bridget had thought Charlotte's parents were an unending trove of interesting stories, particularly Mr. Lockard, who had been to the Sistine Chapel, could name at least 70 shades of green, and had an old record player where he'd spin David Bowie records. But that was then. 10 minutes after wishing on Sphinx, Bridget had a perfectly imperfect bun on top of her head. Do you want one too? Bridget had asked, moving locks of her hair without looking at Charlotte. I mean, it might make us late, but I can do it. Charlotte's hair suddenly felt unnaturally long and heavy. No, Charlotte had said, I don't want us to be late. Good thing, because Bridget was already halfway down the stairs. Maybe my dad changed his mind, Charlotte thought as her sneakers hit each step. Maybe he realized how ridiculous he was. A parent at Red's after school? It just wasn't done. Even she knew that. But when Charlotte's foot hit the final step, she saw him sitting in his recliner with his jacket on, the one he always wore even though her mother insisted he needed a new one. He was wearing his Phillies cap and had the house keys in his hand. He stood up when he saw them and smiled. Ready? He said. Charlotte and Bridget exchanged looks. The back of Charlotte's neck felt like it was on fire. Said Charlotte. She glanced at Bridget, but Bridget looked away this time. Actually, Dad, we wanted to go by ourselves. Mr. Lockard's smile faded. He nodded like he'd just been told the solution to a problem he hadn't known existed. I mean, continued Charlotte, it's just kind of embarrassing, you know? Oh, Mr. Lockard said. Yeah, of course. He cleared his throat and tapped his forehead. Senior moment. The girls laughed uncomfortably. I've got stuff I need to get done around the house anyway. He pulled his wallet out of his back pocket and gave Charlotte a 20, which was enough for 2 visits to Red's. Dedicate a slice to me. All right, guys, that's the end of those 2 chapters. That one flew by again. Down below, make sure you answer the prediction. And at the end, just post a comment what you're thinking about the book so far, any prediction you have about the upcoming chapters, or anything else you want to share about the book today. I'm really excited that we learned a little bit more, but I feel like we're still kind of slowly getting to the problem of the story, which is that top of our plot roller coaster when we learn that there's a problem that needs to be solved. So hopefully in the next few chapters we'll kind of come to that problem and get to that high point of the story. But I'm really excited that we're still learning little bits and pieces here and there to try and put it all together. So I'm going to get going now because I'm going to start my circuit workout on Mr. V's YouTube page. Like I said, I'll have the link in the description below, and I'll have it also in the comments so you can access it either way. And maybe talk to someone in your family, see if they want to work out with you today, or tomorrow morning start your day with a workout. It's been feeling nice to just move my body since I've been at home so much, and I'm sure you guys would feel good too after getting some movement. So make sure you check it out, and I will see you guys again tomorrow. Enjoy the read today. Bye!